Melly here with the Gallimaufry Gals Book Club. Thanks for coming back. You must be enjoying our discussion at least a little bit to have come to part 4 of our 6-part discussion on Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs by Caitlin Doty. And we so appreciate you guys coming back and hope you continue enjoying our discussion.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Would you donate your body to be plastinated for like the legit one? Because they apparently have donation cards at the end.
Yeah. Do you think anyone really wants my body? I don't think so.
Why not?
Of course. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, it's old.
So it's still
So?
interesting.
True, and I do have lots of arthritis and stuff. They could get down to the bones and they could show off my arthritis. And my hand. That was for Melissa.
Oh, yeah, because I start to faint when she shows me her hand.
Yeah, I saw the lump. I don't want to see it again. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry it gives you pain.
It actually
I'm
causes
sorry,
a lot
too.
of pain.
Yeah,
But
I'm really
yeah.
sorry.
Miranda, do you want to see it?
No, I'm good.
Oh,
Can
okay.
I'll look away.
Okay, look away.
It looks like a hand
Oh,
over. It looks.
interesting.
It looks fine over video.
Oh, okay.
It looks
doesn't
kind of
look
more like a callus,
Yeah.
It does kind of, except not
except it's
in
big.
real life. Except not in real life.
Gotcha.
I would have to say, like, if I had to choose between just being buried, because I do have a preferred, like, that we'll go into, like, but if I just had the choice between being buried or doing body worlds, sorry.
Plasticized body.
You know, I do think I would still choose to be buried. I don't know. It just
Yeah.
seems kind of like a huzzah type of
Right.
like.
Look at me.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
know.
I don't know that really
I
any
like
of
the idea of it though. I think it'd be
Yeah,
really.
but you don't
cool.
actually see their faces. I mean, you
I know, but
just
still,
see.
just yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It's kind of a.
If it could be used as a learning tool and not just something to be gawked at, I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess if you're going to gawk at it, you're learning something. So I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah,
I have a different preferred method we'll talk about later too.
Yeah.
I feel
It's
like
nothing
none of
weird.
us are like super like, look at me. So like I feel
Right.
like
Right.
maybe if we were more like, I don't know, like that,
Oh,
maybe we
yeah.
would, but
Mhm. Yeah, that's fair. And then, so with donating blood, this is on page 127. Mom, you were asking if any of us have donated blood
Mhm.
or had a blood transfusion.
I have
No
not.
and no. I've
Oh, I
donated
thought
plasma.
Oh,
But not
okay.
Oh, you donated
I've
plasma.
donated blood before.
Oh, okay.
Haven't had a blood transfusion
I
from a
have-
living or a dead person.
Yeah, that was
Good to know.
that was an interesting that was the
Yes.
question. Can someone donate blood after they die?
Right. Yep. Can someone
Yeah.
donate? Yeah, and I don't actually know if she answered.
Yeah, she does. You can.
You can.
And
Yes.
for it's the
There's a
same thing
time
with
limit.
same with
Right.
Yeah.
like organs though. Like there's a
Right.
certain time
Right.
limit. But would you take blood donations from a dead person?
Oof. If there was no other option.
Right. Yeah.
That's and I don't know why that would be creepy because
I know. Like, what's
But it
the difference
is.
with an organ? Like, how is it any different? you know?
Right.
Like, that's the.
I wonder if it has to do with the fact that like blood feels like it's more
Alive.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
It's,
like
yeah, your
Yeah.
lifeblood.
it's going through your entire body. Like
Right.
Yeah. I would if it was the only way, then yes, I would, but otherwise no, I don't think I could.
I mean, if you think about any blood donation, it's like if the person's alive, the blood's not really any different. But yeah, I don't know. Is the thought of it being dead blood maybe like the thought of there maybe being some like bacteria or something that was missed or not filtered out or
Right.
something maybe.
Right.
I think
Or-
that would be my concern. Like it just would feel like tainted or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
There
and what
does
if you're
But really there'd
seem
be
to
no
be.
difference really.
Right.
No.
except I'd be like, what if their soul is still in that blood? How long ago did they die? I mean, I don't know where people's souls reside, but it would bother me, I think, use someone's
But what
dead
about
blood.
living
Different.
blood?
I don't know. I never thought about this until
Yeah.
my husband had surgery, and he said nope, he didn't want a blood transfusion if he needed one. And I'm like, he just said it creeped him out to think of someone else's blood inside his body. And I never thought about it that way until he mentioned that. And it's like,
Yeah, I never really did either.
No.
you know, and it's like
you see it in movies or TV shows, like,
Mhm.
bring me 2 bags of own egg, and it's like,
Right.
no big deal, whatever.
Right.
right.
Takes of own egg.
I think if you think about it that way, it's less creepy. But yeah, once you start thinking about it coming from another human being, it's like,
Yeah. It's like,
That
mind
is
you, if
interesting.
I need it, get it for me.
Yeah. Yes. Deal.
Okay. Same for you guys?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I have to go to a doctor first.
Oh, always that caveat in there.
So,
And you don't
I
want me to
guess,
bring it in a pail?
like, I don't understand if
Where did it come from that it's in a pail?
It's from a joke that I
Oh,
read.
From a corpse.
I don't want to
no
know
thanks.
anymore.
I don't need any pale blood.
It was a joke from a joke that I read. It's like, I don't know why they won't let me. They told me, they keep saying they need blood, but they told me to stop donating. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I bring it in pails. That was a joke I read. So anyway, I know, and I laughed at it. So I don't know what that says about me. Anyway,
No,
onward,
that's fine.
Moving on to eating corpses.
Yes, actually. Could you eat a corpse or ashes, or would it be situational? Well, obviously it would be situational, but
situational.
or I guess not would you, but could you eat a corpse or ashes? And this one comes from the chapter about
Eating corpses or
it
ashes.
says we eat dead chickens, why not dead people?
If someone served me up a human burger, I'd eat it.
If they
Would
told
you?
you beforehand.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, if it
Would you
wasn't
want it?
illegal, I'd eat it.
You'd try it?
I'd try it.
I wouldn't.
I
Because
don't
who
think
would
I
it
could
have
either.
been?
I don't know.
See, that would bother me. And would I be
I think
their
I'd rather not know, like, honestly.
and would I be their next dinner on their next dinner plate? Because if you don't know where they're getting their bodies from.
Right? Like
Here, have this hamburger. That means you're saying
a
yes, and we can
restaurant selling pigeons and calling it chicken.
yes.
It's completely
know.
legit.
I don't know. What about the ashes, though? I mean, I know that is in some cultures.
Well, there was this one part in the chapter, maybe it wasn't this chapter, but they were talking about there was a French war. It must not be in this chapter. But there was a war and they were running out of food and they were using bones as flour.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh.
And I don't know why I can't find it on this chapter, so it must be something else. But
that reminds me of
but then
the
they all
Barber
died.
movie.
I think it said they all died too.
They all died too.
So
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't know that the bone flour was deadly, and I don't know if they were if it was necessarily deadly or if they just died. She didn't really make that connection. She just said that they have, correlation isn't causation. But if I didn't know that if it was deadly, I would probably try it in a situation like if there
War.
wasn't you know, yeah, if I was in the same situation, I would try it. Like, it looks like flour. Let's try it as flour.
Let's just call it flour.
Right.
So what
Yeah.
was that Johnny Depp movie, The
Sweeney
Barber?
Todd.
Yep.
Yes. Because that was a time when there really wasn't food around.
And I haven't I'm guessing that was a novel or a play, right?
The play. Yep.
'Cause I've only
I don't
seen
know.
that version of it, so
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
the best version there is, of course.
Yeah.
Back when Netflix used to send out DVDs, I had that one for like a year.
Nice.
And then I sent it back, and then Miranda gave me her extra copy.
Ah, nice. Yep, I have a copy of that one too.
I don't need a copy of
You
it.
know, you know it's good when someone who doesn't like musicals buys it, and then you end up with 2 copies.
That is true.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd have to be in a very serious situation. Otherwise, I'd be too worried about like Kuru or some other prion disease.
Well, and that's just it too. And remember, human bodies are not very nutritious.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Think
Well,
about what
there's
you eat
protein.
now.
Yeah.
Like,
Depends what you're eating.
like half the that's on the market isn't nutritional for us, but we still fucking eat it.
That's true. That's true.
But
Yes.
I would prefer not to eat people, and I hope I never have to get in that situation.
Right.
yeah, I mean,
But if you want an
preferably, yes.
arm or a leg, and if we're in a situation where there's no food, I will gladly give you an arm or a leg that you can turn into a stew.
Oh, right. The person, right. Because someone doesn't have to die. If there's no one that has died, you don't have to kill someone, right? Yeah, just amputation and then a meal.
Yeah. What was that thing that just flashed up?
I accidentally hit something because
my
taskbar came up and I was trying to get rid of it. And
I thought
anyway,
that was the warning. But
nope.
yeah, I mean,
but
yeah,
you're coming up to 5 o'clock, so.
Wow, so quickly.
It did come up quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. I definitely want to get to our general questions because I think
we can finish going down the list. I think we'll be fine.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the dogs have only knocked on the door a few times. I had to lock it, so they stayed out. Ayla knows how to open the door.
She does.
So she lets both
Oh,
of them.
I wonder who taught her how to do that.
She did.
She taught herself.
Oh, yeah. Without some inspiration from a certain Melissa.
No,
or
I
a
don't.
mom.
I don't think I ever taught her.
No, you definitely did. It was,
I don't think so.
I was up there when you were doing it.
Look at see, push here.
Well, she's smart. She learned from me.
And Modi, he just sits there and whines and waits for Bela to open it. So
he's the one that gets them both out because he knows how to whine to get them out. Yes. And then Bela is the one who gets them both in. They're a good team.
Teamwork.
They are.
So one thing I thought was really, when I first read it, it's on page 140 about the Japanese sky rises for dead people. Again, it's just something that I didn't really think about. And I think this one was about, it was around the idea of like space for
graveyards. And
yes.
people.
Yep. And one thing that I just wanted to make note of or thought was, at first when I read it, I thought it was really creepy, but then it was saying there was like a restaurant and a concert hall and gardens filled with exotic birds. And for some reason, maybe it's not too crazy, but when they mentioned gardens, it went from like creepy to like really kind of cool and like
yeah
and just kind of like, if there wasn't room for cemeteries, I actually think it would be pretty neat to have like a skyrise with gardens and like a
cemetery.
A tower cemetery. I don't know, what did you
I think
guys
it's
think
really
about
smart
that?
To be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, there's not a lot of real estate to bury people, especially like in Japan or like China or India. Like there's a lot of congested cities that, where are they going to put their dead people?
So like in New Orleans, they have the stacked, I don't know if you call them mausoleums or whatever. They already do that there.
Oh yeah, you can find them around like Chippewa Falls has one.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not a skyscraper, but it's
Right.
I was
Yeah.
like,
maybe like
definitely
4
not a
layers high
skyscraper,
or
but
something.
yeah.
No. That would be sad if that was the city's only skyscraper.
So sad.
Could somehow see that being like something
Thing.
for some of these towns around here.
Mhm.
Let's drum up some tourism.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
see the summit.
Come
What
see
would
our
you
underground Dairy Queen and our skyscraper
Right.
cemetery.
Yes.
Oh man. Let's see here. And then let's see here. Oh yeah, so she had a chapter about the proverbial white light. People are dying or about to die. So I was just kind of curious, like, what do you guys think the white light, or what, obviously none of us are like scientists or anything, so we don't have a scientific answer, but what do you guys always think that it might be? Like, what do you think it's more like a biology thing or a spiritual thing, or maybe both?
I think it's both. Because some people who have near-death experiences don't always have the white light. I mean, they don't always have the vision of heaven. It's a vision of hell.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think the body shutting down does do things to your brain and to your mind also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that it's just your brain trying to make sense of things, kind of like how you have dreams. It's kind of working through things. I kind of think that's kind of how it is when, like, you don't even necessarily need to be dying, but like if your body is having issues in general, I think it's your mind's way of kind of trying to cope with things.
I'm with the same thought as you, Miranda.
Yeah, and I think it might be both too. I think it might be spiritual and biological, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I haven't really looked into a lot of those stories, but it's just one of those things where it's like, well, I'm never going to know, so I'm not gonna invest as much time into it as I am other things, I guess. So I just kind of think that, yeah, it makes sense that it would be biological, but I also think it makes sense that it would be spiritual.
Yep.
So, but
That's
yeah,
fair.
so, and then Miranda, you were asking if any of us have had a near-death experience.
I haven't, but I was curious if you guys have.
Not in waking life.
No. Not in waking life either.
In dream life, I've been shot at close range by a pistol twice.
Nice.
I mean,
and that was scary.
fair. Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, the only experience that I can think of was, and I mean, it's not even near death, really. I mean, it could have been, but I mean, we were in some inland lake, and I was on that blow-up whale, and I fell off, and it felt like forever that I was underwater and just seeing bubbles, and then it was either Dad or Josh lifted me out, but like I was literally drowning.
I've definitely had a couple drowning moments too, and they were actually caused by one of the aforementioned people.
Yeah, well, obviously they were nearby me too. So.
But it wasn't like I saw anything. It was more of I was freaking out because I couldn't breathe. Like, it's not like I passed out or anything. So
exactly, no mine wasn't either.
Yeah.
That was as near death as like, there were just bubbles.
Yeah,
that would be scary.
Yeah, my bicycle accident that I had in high school, not the most recent one.
I was gonna say, wow, that wasn't so long ago.
No, in high school, the one where I was unconscious. I mean, I was unconscious, and I still to this day do not remember getting on my bike or riding. I don't remember it happening. I just remember waking up on our couch and my mom asking me if I knew my name, and I got mad at her for asking me like 6,000 times, because that's what you do when someone is unconscious.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, technically that could have been. That's I think the closest I've come,
Mm-hmm.
and I've forgotten any other ones. So,
Mm-hmm.
car accident when Angie was young. That one, I think we were all kind of just unconscious for a short moment.
Yeah, I don't even remember it happening, and you guys said I like looked out from the back seat and was like, "Oh my God," or something, and I don't remember that. I don't remember anything happening. Just waking up and like the paramedics were like shining lights in my eyes. And
That would be scary.
Yeah, see, and I know my head hit the windshield and cracked it. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure I was out for a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm blaming all my forgotten memories on. My bad memory is all my head injuries. So.
Oh, I thought it was that wavelength thing.
Oh, that too.
Well, not the the EMPs.
No, the
UHFs.
No. What was it called?
I don't remember.
E something.
ELF.
Oh,
Extremely the ELF system that
extremely
was
low frequency.
Oh, extremely low frequency.
Yeah, and then when they took it away, then my memory, my brain needed it to complete its memory system, circuits. So, but now we know it's all the head injuries I had as in the past.
Yes.
EMP activated.
Yes.
Overwatch. Sorry.
Okay.
So on page 157, Mom, you mentioned something about being buried in a reasonable time. And what about spring burials in Wisconsin? And that question comes from the fact that in some places, many places, the ground is too hard to dig a grave.
And she mentioned that Wisconsin is one that you're supposed to be buried within so many hours. And yet I know there's people that have died in the winter and then they're buried in the spring.
Oh yeah, I've known people to that too. And you're right, in here it does say that
right,
they restrict them from storing them. But
I mean, it could be a law that they're supposed to, but also Wisconsin is, we're pretty spread out, and it's a lot of small towns, honestly, that I'm wondering if a lot of times it just kind of floats by because people are like, oh my God, this is too much of a hassle, so no one enforces it.
Right.
Like they might, like in the bigger cities like Milwaukee or like Madison or something, but like
I wonder if there's a loophole here. It says they restrict cemeteries from storing bodies, but what about mortuaries?
Right.
Oh, that's true too. Do they stay at the funeral home?
They might.
They might. And then when they said about the little buildings, I always thought those were just garden sheds and cemeteries.
Yeah,
I thought so too.
Oh, really?
It's like, yes, I never knew that.
Interesting. So I guess I always did assume that they were temporary places.
No, I always thought that was the garden.
Yeah, same.
Riding lawnmower.
Oh, exactly. A couple shovels.
Like the trees.
Well, they do have places for the lawnmowers too, but
I always thought they just stored them there. And
interesting. That is so interesting. That is so cool.
Was Carl going to wave to us?
I hope he doesn't.
It's a ghost.
Not right now.
Okay.
He got up from his nap. But
okay.
I don't believe he's clothed.
Yeah.
Yeah, please don't wave to us.
Put your hands up.
He's in the other room. That's why I turned this.
That's why I noticed you kind of moved it. I went, I wonder if he got up.
It's dark in the hallway. I don't believe you can see anything.
So then also, Mom, you mentioned the stinky badge of honor, and why do women's health issues seem to take second place?
Yeah, because
if you can,
in the beginning,
expand on that. And that
in the beginning, they the doctors, if they smelled horrible from doing whatever they do, that was considered a badge of honor, and they didn't wash their hands and whatever.
Yeah, that was really creepy.
Oh yeah,
that was.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Or even dealing with dead people.
Right.
Yeah, and then you go to a woman who's giving birth,
Right.
and they said that women who had midwives had a better chance of living than being attended by a doctor.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
if they
it
had
said
that
in
stinky
the.
badge of honor, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to read it.
Go ahead.
Oh,
In
yeah.
the mid-1800s, Dr. Ignaz Philippe noticed that new mothers who were treated by midwives fared much better than those who were treated by trainee doctors who also handled and dissected cadavers. Gee.
Yeah.
Yeah. What page is that on?
164.
That's
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was mentioning before,
Yeah.
like with it being kind of like they were kind of revered a little bit more, like anyway, like morticians were like, and that was kind of an honor. Oh, hey, I smell like my
Dead
profession,
people.
like, like
I'm a doctor or a mortician when I come walking in.
Right.
That is
well,
so
and the thing
crazy.
is later on it said something about like once they kind of made that correlation and they started like washing before doing that, the mortality rate of babies and the women having them went down.
Yeah, so the doctor issued a mandate that hands must be washed between the two activities, and it worked.
Thank you, Dr. Semmelweis, for telling us to wash our hands.
Surprise!
Oh my gosh, it's just insane. Yeah, so do you think it was more to do with women's health issues, or do you think it was more to do with...
Hi, Carl!
Oh,
hi!
You're on the internet!
Hi!
Hold your book up over your shoulder, Ange.
Where are you going? Oh, you have clothes on now, at least.
Okay, well, that's okay.
Just no
then.
shirt. Just no shirt.
Okay, well, that's good then.
Scared me there.
Scared me too.
There's shorts on.
Yep.
All right.
Oh man. No, that's a really good question, though.
On topic, I don't think it had to do with women's issues. I think it just had to do with their just practices in general. Like to them, washing their hands they didn't realize that there was so much bacteria and stuff back then. Like that was still early in their discoveries of, all that stuff. And things weren't always as clean. Like, so like, I don't think it was necessarily had to do with the fact that they were going to be handling women afterwards. It was more of they didn't know better.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think so too. Just, like the pride of their profession.
Which,
because I'm sure it wasn't just, I know this sort of the study that he did was noticing babies and like the women giving birth, but I mean, there had to have been a lot more people that died from contamination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd think so.
True. I just feel like sometimes women's health is just, even nowadays, is just really doesn't seem to always be a priority. And
well, you know what, I get what you're saying, Mom, because like even once they figured out the correlation, it wasn't like an immediate practice that was taken on. I think she mentioned that. It was like, oh, we know this will save you, but we'd rather
stinky
hands.
It's kind of like the male
right,
I don't know, macho-ness or something kind of has gotten in the way of better health care.
Yeah, that's fair. And then we go back into pets. So being buried with your pet, would you want your pet buried with you? The reason we're going back and forth between pets is because it's scattered throughout the book.
Right.
Otherwise I didn't even think to put them all together, but being buried with your pet, would you want your pet buried with you? If it was already dead or cremated, sneak it into your pocket or casket? Any of those. And I don't think it's actually legal in America.
No.
Right. That was one of the things she touched on. That's why I'd be sneaking it into the pocket or the casket, because technically most graveyards, cemeteries don't allow pets in with the people.
If it was illegal and if it wasn't illegal, would you want your pet buried with you? Or
Well, since I don't plan on being in a casket and buried, but if I was and my dog was already dead, then yes, I would like you to put some of the ashes in a pocket or in a little
Cute.
box next to me.
Cute. Would they be easily found?
Well, I don't know. After the viewing, do they look at you again before they bury you?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because then
Double
you could
check your
sneak.
pockets.
Yeah, I mean, because, I like skirts with pockets, so, you could put in a little box of ashes of the dog in my pocket.
I thought this was like an interesting chapter. I never really thought about it.
Yeah, me neither.
Me either.
No. What would you do, Melissa?
Yeah. I think if we were living in a different, I don't know, like it does seem like kind of a neat idea to just, I don't know, because there's just so many layers, because it seems like they're almost used to be more of like a family plot, like a funeral plot, and I don't know much about it, but it doesn't seem like there is anymore. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe some families have plots more and
Sorry, I
might
don't
not.
have any for you.
Right,
That's okay.
That's part of it, is if you
Yeah.
pretty much have to pre-purchase, and then it's like,
Exactly.
okay, what do you buy out a whole graveyard? This is for my
Right.
future generations.
Right.
Like,
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly.
like I think if like family plots were more of like a cultural like thing, like that's what people do, like you get buried in your family plot, then yeah, I would definitely want my dog buried in that plot. I think that'd be really cool. Or the ashes scattered in it or something.
What about in your casket?
I think
If
it
you
would
were going to
just
be
be,
buried in a
I think
casket.
it would just be too complicated to find the dog, because the dog is hopefully going to die sooner than I am. So I think it would just be too complicated to like find the ashes or find the body and
uh-oh.
then like what?
I have an
Angie?
idea.
Oh boy.
So maybe this is the case for taxidermy in your pet.
Oh my god. I know, I was actually
There
thinking
you
that
go.
too. Like,
That's true.
So
I'm just taxiderming it to save it for later.
Right.
yeah, and do it in like a
Exactly.
laying, like sort of a cute laying down position, like when they're laying down on their stomach with like their paws under them. Like do it in that position, and then they could like lay like on top of you or next to you.
Oh, in the casket.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
the casket.
That
could
would be
cute.
so cute.
that would be.
That would be so
Or
cute.
it'd be a funny joke. So say it's not a real paw, but like get a fake one that looks like your the pet. Okay, so you can do this for me. So find like a fake orange cat paw.
Thanks again for watching. We hope to see you next week. Until then, happy reading.